Okay, so we're going to start with A Concern for Dark Corners, which is chapter 19, page 81. No sooner was Monsieur Leblanc seated than he turned his eyes toward the empty pallets. "How is the poor little injured one?" he asked. "Not well," answered Jondrette with a doleful yet grateful smile. "Not well at all, my worthy monsieur. Her older sister has taken her to the Bourbe to have her arm dressed. You will see them. They will be back directly." "Madame Fabantou seems much better to me," Monsieur Leblanc went on, casting his eyes on the grotesque attire of La Jondrette, who, standing between him and the door, as though already guarding the exit, was looking at him in a threatening, almost defiant posture. "She is dying," said Jondrette. "But you see, monsieur, she has so much courage. That woman, she's not a woman, she's an ox." The woman, touched by the compliment, retorted with the smirk of a flattered monster. "You're always too kind to me, Monsieur Jondrette." "Jondrette?" said Leblanc. "I thought your name was Fabantou." "Fabantou or Jondrette," replied the husband hastily. "Sabricourt as an artist." And directing a shrug of the shoulders toward his wife, which Monsieur Leblanc did not see, he continued with an emphatic and caressing tone of voice. "Ah, we have always gotten along together, this poor dear and I. What would be left of us if it were not for that? We are so unfortunate, my respected monsieur. We have arms, we have courage, but no work. I don't know how the government arranges it, but on my word of honor I am no Jacobin, monsieur. I have no rabble-rousing Democrat. I wish them no harm, but if I were the ministers of my most sacred word, things would be different. Now, for example, I wanted to have my girls learn the trade of making cardboard boxes. You will say, what? A trade? Yes, a trade, a simple trade, a living. What a downfall, my benefactor, what degradation, when one has been what we once were. Alas, we have nothing left from our days of prosperity. Nothing but one single thing, a painting, to which I cling, yet shall have to part with, for we must live. That's how it is, we must live." While Jondrette was talking with an apparent disorder that detracted nothing from his crafty expression, Marius looked up and saw at the back of the room somebody he had not seen before. A man had come in so noiselessly that nobody had heard the door swing open. The man wore a violet knit waistcoat, old, worn-out, stained, cut, and showing gaps at all its folds, wide trousers of cotton velvet, socks on his feet, no shirt, his neck bare, his arms bare and tattooed, and his face stained black. He sat down in silence, with folded arms on the nearest bed, and as he stayed behind the woman, he could be made out only with difficulty. That kind of magnetic instinct that warns the eye made Monsieur Leblanc turn at almost the same time as Marius. He could not help a movement of surprise which did not escape Jondrette. "Ah, I see," exclaimed Jondrette, buttoning up his coat complacently. "You're looking at your overcoat. It's a fine fit, very fine." "Who is that man?" said Monsieur Leblanc. "Ah, that man," said Jondrette, "a neighbor. Pay no attention to him." The neighbor looked very strange. However, chemical factories abound in Faubourg Saint-Marceau. Many factory workers might get black faces. Actually, everything about Monsieur Leblanc exuded a candid and intrepid confidence. He said, "Pardon me, you were saying, Monsieur Fabantou?" "I was telling you, monsieur and dear patron," replied Jondrette, leaning his elbows on the table, and gazing at Monsieur Leblanc with staring and tender eyes, rather like a boa constrictor's. "I was telling you that I had a picture to sell." There was a slight noise at the door. A second man entered, and sat down on the bed behind Mother Jondrette. He had his arms bare like the first, and a mask of ink or soot. Although this man had literally slipped into the room, he could not prevent Monsieur Leblanc from noticing him. "Do not mind them," said Jondrette. "They live in this house. I was telling you, then, I have a valuable painting left. Here, monsieur, look." Okay, so remember, Jondrette, who is also Thénardier, actually planned to attack Monsieur Leblanc, because he knows he is Jean Valjean. Alright, he got up, went to the wall, at the foot of which stood the panel mentioned, and turned it around, still leaving it leaning against the wall. It looked like a painting, but the candle scarcely revealed it. Marius could not make out any of it, Jondrette being between him and the picture. He merely caught a glimpse of a coarse daub with a sort of principal figure painted in the crude and glaring style of works by itinerant artists or of painted screens. "What is that?" asked Monsieur Leblanc. Jondrette exclaimed, "A painting by a master. A high-priced picture. My benefactor. I cling to it as I do to my daughter. Brings back memories. But I have told you, and I cannot retract it. I'm so unfortunate, I must part with it." Whether by chance, or whether there was some beginning of distrust, while examining the picture, Monsieur Leblanc glanced toward the back of the room. There were now 4 men there, 3 seated on the bed, 1 standing near the door-frame. All 4 bare-armed, motionless, and with blackened faces. One of the 3 on the bed was leaning against the wall with his eyes closed, and one would have said he was asleep. That one was old. His white hair over his black face looked horrible. The two others seemed young. One was bearded, the other had long hair. None of them had shoes on. Those who did not have socks were barefoot. Jondrette noticed that Monsieur Leblanc's eye had settled on the men. "They are friends. They live nearby," he said. "They are dark because they work in charcoal. They are chimney menders. Don't concern yourself with them, my benefactor. But buy my picture. Take pity on my misery. I will not sell it to you at a high price. How much would you say it is worth?" "But," said Monsieur Leblanc, looking Jondrette full in the face, like a man putting himself on his guard, "that is some tavern sign. It is worth about 3 francs. Jondrette answered calmly, "Did you bring some money with you?" "I would settle for 1,000 crowns." Monsieur Leblanc rose to his feet, backed up to the wall, and ran his eye rapidly over the room. He had Jondrette at his left on the side toward the window, and his wife and the 4 men at his right on the side toward the door. The 4 men did not budge, and did not even seem to see him. Jondrette had gone back to talking in a plaintive key, with his eyes so wild and his tone so mournful that Monsieur Leblanc might have thought he was seeing no more nor less than a man crazed by misery. Okay, so don't worry about the next paragraph. It's just him trying to sell the picture. The next paragraph. While speaking, Jondrette did not look at Monsieur Leblanc, who was watching him. Monsieur Leblanc's eye was fixed on Jondrette, and Jondrette's eye on the door. Marius's breathless attention went from one to the other. Monsieur Leblanc appeared to be asking himself, "Is this man an idiot?" Jondrette repeated 2 or 3 times with all sorts of varied inflections in the drawling and begging style, "I can only throw myself into the river. I went down 3 steps with that in mind the other day near the Pont Austerlitz." Suddenly his dull eye lit up with a hideous glare. This little man straightened up and turned horrifying. He took a step toward Monsieur Leblanc and thundered at him, "But all this is not the point. Do you know me?" Okay, then we're going to start with Chapter 10, The Ambush, on our next video.